In this video, we'll walk through pricing a P&C policy. And you can see in this case, we've got the prior year information, premiums of $750, claims $500, LAE $110, underwriting expenses $120 for underwriting gain of $20. And then you can also see in this case that they expect for next year for their claims to grow 3% and 4% for frequency and severity, their LAE to grow 3% and 4% for frequency and severity, and their underwriting expenses to grow 4%. Their investment return expectation is 4%, and they need to earn 9% on their capital to make the return they need. And the timing of the claims should be paid out over the next 18 months, so that gives you an N of 0.75. We use that mid-year convention. Same thing with LAE, and then expenses, which is the typical. Expenses get paid out a little faster than claims. Expenses over the next 12 months, so we'll use an N of 0.5. So that gives us everything we need. The only question is, which is the best premium to charge? $779.72 or $836.16, and we want to get this closest to 9%. Obviously the higher premium would be better, except for that may not make us very competitive. So maybe the lower premium is the right premium. So you need to work them out. I'm going to do both of them. You don't have to do that on an exam. You can work one, and if you get the right answer, stop there. But I'm going to do both of them just to give us that practice. And so I'll start with what is the expected claims for next year. So we start with current year for claims, LAE, and expenses. And if we look at the current year, our claims are $500, our LAE is $110, and the underwriting expenses is $120. So how do we get to next year? Well, claims, we multiply by 1 plus the expected growth in frequency. We said that was 3% times 1 plus the expected growth in severity. We said that was 4% up here. Same thing with LAE, except for in this case, well, the exact same numbers, 3% and 4%. And then for expenses, we said that the expenses should grow at 4%. And so when we do all of those numbers, we get an answer of 520.07, 114.42, and 122. I'm sorry, pulled the wrong numbers. 535.60, 117.83, and 124.80. When we add all those together, we get 778.23. And you'll notice that that will be the same no matter which premium we charge, because the claims that we expect to pay out is not related to the premium we charge. Those are what we're trying to figure out, what premium we need to cover those claims. So that's step one. Step one is calculate next year's claims, LAE, and expenses. What we do in step two is figure out the float. And figure out the float, we're going to take what we just believe we're going to pay next year. We're now going to discount it back to get it in today's dollars. So these three numbers discounted back. And so when we take the next year claims, LAE, and expenses, 535.60, 117.83, 124.80, 778.23, and we try to get it discounted. All we need to do is divide by 1 plus our investment return. In this case, our investment return is 4%. Raised at the time, well, for claims, that's 0.75. For LAE, That's 0.75 because up here we said we use an N, 0.75 for those two, and then for expenses we'll use 0.5. So divided by 1 plus 0.04 raised to the 0.5. And those numbers, which is the numbers I accidentally wrote down before, but this time the correct numbers are 520.07, 114.42, 122.38, and the sum of all of those is 756.87. Alright, so that gives us everything we need to start building the income statement. And so if we go to step 3 is, let's do the investment income. The investment income is first the float piece. So the float piece equals next year's 778.23, what we just calculated back up here, minus the discounted amount, which is 756.87. The difference in those two is 21.36. And the second part that we do is the earnings, investment earnings on beginning surplus. So our beginning surplus, we're using a 1:3 surplus ratio. So that means that our beginning required surplus equals beginning premiums 750, the premiums for this year 750 divided by 3, that equals 250. So we have that surplus sitting there beginning of the year, and so we take 250 times our investment return, 4%, and that gives us 10. So our investment income is going to equal 21.36 plus 10, and that equals 31.36. And so now we're in pretty good shape to finish up the income statement, but before that, let's figure out our required surplus. We already know that for the current year it equals 250. For next year it either equals 779.72 divided by 3 or 836.16 divided by 3. So either 779.72 divided by 3 or 836.16 divided by 3. So that equals 259.91 or 278.72. The average we also need, the average net worth, which you take the 250 plus the 259.91 and then divide by 2, so you get an average net worth of 254.95 in this case, or 264.36 in this case. And then the change, which is that increase in risk, we also need that, which is the 259 minus the 250. So that's 9.91. And on the other one, it is 28.72. And we'll need all of these numbers calculated, but now we have everything we need to finish the analysis. And so we take the premium. The premium is either going to be 779.72 or 836.16. We then subtract claims, LAE, and expenses. We got those numbers earlier. 778.23. And so when we take the difference, that will give us our underwriting gain. So 779.72 minus 778.23, that's underwriting gain 149. With the higher premium, it is an underwriting gain of 57.93. Then we have our investment income. And in this case, because we're only using beginning required surplus in our calculation, we're not putting any investment income on the underwriting gain, you get the same answer for both. And if you remember for that, that's where we got the 3136. That gives us a net income. In this case, the 32.85, and with the higher premium, it is 89.29. And then what we do is take less the change in required surplus. And we're back up here. That's 9.91 for the lower premium and 28.72. So that gives us a return net of change in required surplus. And so in this case, it is 22.95 for the lower premium, and for the higher premium, it is 60.57. And the very last thing we do is we get our ROE. So 22.95 divided by, if you remember back up here, we calculated the average of the net worth. So 254.95. And here we take 60.57 and divide by the average of 264.36. And that gives us an ROE for the lower premium of 9%, for the higher premium of 23%. So the lower premium is a better answer because it gives us our target ROE of 9%. The higher premium would give us a really great ROE, but that would probably make us too uncompetitive and unlikely that the states would approve that. So the right answer is the lower premium, 779.72. If you only work one of them and you're just lucky that I worked the right one, I usually switch. Sometimes it's lower, sometimes it's a higher. But if you work only one of them, get the right answer, you can stop there. But you can see it's not tremendously extra work to calculate the both premiums, because for both premiums it impacts the required surplus, it's going to impact the underwriting gain and the change in required surplus, but you don't have that many different numbers you have to calculate to get both premiums. So if you set it up in a way where when you need them both, you calculate it at that point, you should be in good shape. Thanks.